But I think when you break out of that, certainly from my point of view, the first problem that needs to be solved is the management and tracking of that entire life cycle.
Yeah,
because that feels to me where it's like the basic process is just falling down. And for us, that's what we're really focused on, just that management of that end-to-end life cycle of any service procured, contracted, delivered under a statement of work.
Right.
Because if you can capture that, then you can understand what you're getting for your money. You can make your buying decisions. You can address supply chain in terms of diversity, resilience, agility, innovation, etc.
Yes.
So if you're trying to solve that problem, that's a big problem to solve. And it doesn't necessarily mean you can solve the other problems around, completely automating the way every SOW is written, for example. So I think there's room for these specialist providers.
Definitely.
And it'll be interesting to see that there are bound to be certain industries where it's very specific, where you get this kind of solution in a bubble that just encompasses everything that specific industry needs. And in my experience in the kind of workforce tech sector, I've seen this growth of generalists and then the breaking out into the kind of niche specialists. Seen that time and time again. But I think when you look at like enterprise technology, a lot of it is about how it knits together. And so it's interesting to see, certainly with the workforce solutions providers, as they're becoming more sophisticated in their approach to this multi-channel, or dare I say it, total talent kind of approach. You're getting things like the concept, well, it's a pretty, it's been around for a while, but the use of things like decision trees and the use of integrations. I mean, at a simple level, sometimes people will approach it and they'll say, oh, we have to have, it'll have to integrate with this and have to integrate with that. Whereas if you've got a piece of technology that solves a very specific problem and captures it, then sometimes what you need is single sign-on, and you need the right branding and kind of user experience. So people are moving through different screens. They don't need to know they're going across different platforms, but they need a consistent experience, and they need the best possible experience for the specific task they're trying to carry out. And that's very difficult to have all just in one piece of technology. We all know that and appreciate that in our personal use of technology. But there are certain entry and exit points where data needs to flow. And that's very important, certainly for providers like ourselves, whether it's putting in a purchase order from a source to pay system, whether it's integrating with an e-signature package, whether it's finance systems. We're always integrating with finance systems, but also things like data warehousing and reporting. So there are hugely sophisticated reporting products out there. So if you're using a system to capture contingent workforce, a system to monitor what you're doing with your permanent workforce, and a system to monitor how you're procuring services, each one of those three systems doesn't necessarily need to be the data system of record. It could be that Sisense or Power BI or something like that, or a data warehouse is used where all of that data can just be fed in, and then it can be manipulated and analyzed separately. But I think how the different technologies are kind of knitted together is going to be a crucial part of that evolution.
I definitely think that's. I definitely think that's key. Once again, because particularly in the services area, because it's tempting to kind of look at it as an isolated problem and solution, but it really is embedded into the enterprise processes and systems and data management. And and that's where I think specialist point solutions are important and crucial. But I also think that how they integrate with the other solutions is incredibly important. And so I think that's maybe a point to emphasize more for these solution providers, and how they do that and how they can enable it and what the results of that can be. I think there is the role for these specialists, because going with a VMS SOW module for example. There's a lot of baggage that comes with that, and the organization that is using it is not necessarily, it offers this, kind of the allure is, okay, well, we can source either contingent workforce or SOWs through this platform, but but there are constraints that come along with that, and I think the role of these independent solutions, that they may fit and address a certain set of problems within the overall requirement set. I think it's extremely important, but at the same time, I think the integration part is also very important, and I think it's important to buyers to see how a solution like that can just can kind of fit into the flow, and not result in orphan data and processes and so forth.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, if you can, a very simplistic level, if people aren't having to sign into multiple systems, and if people aren't having to, double type information, though, right, at the most basic level, those are the problems that have to be solved. And yep. I think when you look at, there's no standardization around this. So we get people coming to us with, can you integrate with X, Y, and Z in this scenario? How would you fit in with these other systems? And in a lot of cases now, it's becoming more standard of, well, okay, that purchase order would come in there, the invoices would go out through this, and e-signature or whatever it might be. But there are always situations where we'll ask the question and say, well, does it make sense to do that? Does it make sense to integrate with that piece of technology? What's the benefit of doing that? And I don't think that the market is not at a sufficient level of maturity where that is clear in all cases. And so this is something that will absolutely evolve over time, and it will be more clear cut. What's a kind of standard way to do it? As you say, the procurement of services is very much embedded into all parts of organizations. But the thing that's quite amazing about it is, even in very large and otherwise very sophisticated organizations, even though it's embedded, it's often embedded in almost a manual way, which is quite shocking when you consider how much money is spent in this way, how crucial it is, and how important the understanding of that data is. So there's so much mileage to go, and there's so much opportunity for companies to really get this working more effectively for them. And that's happening at the same time as the fact that, due to regulatory changes and behavioral changes, there is a move towards more of an output-based work delivery model. There is an increase in that transition to that. So I think that's why, plus things like cost constraints and the fact that this just hasn't been dealt with, that's why this is rising to the top, or has risen to the top of people's priority lists. Whereas I remember reading some of your articles from a good few years ago when you were talking about services procurement offerings, and you were kind of saying, we're talking about this, when are people going to get on with it? If you look back at the research that you've done on this, and the kind of the articles that you've written in this area, do you feel that's really happening now?
I think it's happening more so. But I think the kind of the barriers and the inertia in organizations is enormous. And so I think there's an increasing recognition, but again, because it's such a, from the organization standpoint, it's such a it's a multi-armed hydra of,
it's a thorny issue, isn't it?
It's just difficult to kind of for them to get their, get focused and get grounded in a particular place to attack the problems. That's where I think the value of the workforce solutions can be in bringing that focus and not boiling the ocean. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, that's not what's happening. So